Hey, I'm Andrea. This is a Bipolar Phoenix talk show to support my book, which is hopefully going to come out in October. That's my goal. October is Mental Health Month. So here I am. I'm in Singapore. I'm an American citizen, but I lived here for the past, I guess it's 9 years. And just had my aerobics class this morning in the pool and rushed and put on my Scepter makeup, which is my friend Samina Malik's cosmetics company. So I'm ready to go. And I'm really excited for my guest today. She's a friend. She was the officiant at my wedding. And the reason I met her is because we both played rugby. And in Chicago, we didn't play together in Chicago, but she played in the South and I played in Chicago, and she moved there. And so we met at a rugby flip cup tournament, flip cup. And we were on the championship team that evening. So I got to know Lavender, and I'm pretty sure that I said, if I ever get married again, tell you another time about that. I wanted her to be the officiant. So it all came to be. And she has a very strong faith. She has an amazing story of survival. And I'm really excited to introduce Lavender Kelley as my guest today. Hi, Lavender.
Hey, and you did tell me that evening that if you ever got married again, that you wanted me to perform your wedding.
See, I remember these things. People think you don't remember. We remember.
Right.
Lavender, I wanted to just give an overview of our talk today, which we talked about offline. So we're talking, Lavender's a reverend in the Presbyterian faith. And one of the things I've struggled with as a bipolar person was spirituality and God. And I always felt like God is punishing me. And it's hard not to cry when I say that. But I really wanted to talk with you. You're interviewed in my book, and I wanted to hear a lot more about your ideas on spirituality and dealing with mental illness. So that's the overview for today for everyone who's watching the replay and watching live. Thank you. So Lavender, just can you introduce yourself and maybe go right ahead and tell us about your journey with religion and with faith and with mental illness, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm a chaplain at Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C. So if you know anything about chaplaincy, essentially I'm not there to promote any particular religion or belief, but to support people in their beliefs and to help them through the struggles that come along. And as you can imagine, with a children's hospital, it's really where the rubber hits the road in terms of, are your coping mechanisms working? Are your beliefs, helping you or falling out of the bottom? And so it's just this really amazing place to get to sit with people in the most vulnerable moments of their lives, but also some of the most sacred moments of their lives. And that those sacred moments can take on a lot of different contours. Mm-hmm. I actually felt a calling into ministry, if you will, as a pretty young child, probably about 12, 13 years old. But at the time, I grew up in the South. I grew up in a conservative evangelical context where there are no women ministers. And so I didn't know how to make sense of that sense of calling to do something. But I was always curious about all things spiritual, not just Christian, not just specifically religious, but all things spiritual, and always asking questions, which got me in trouble, as you can imagine. But then also kind of going alongside my curiosity was this slowly emerging struggle with my own mental health.
That's a ray of light by Madonna, like ray of light coming in on our religious discussion. Sorry.
But yeah, so from a pretty young age, I was very depressed and even suicidal at a young age. And I mean like 4, 5, 6 years old, because I had a combination of being in both a very abusive home context, but then also, as I would learn later in life, I mean, I have biochemical stuff going on in terms of depression, bipolar, those kinds of struggles. And so, but you don't have a diagnosis when you're an 8-year-old kid and
right.
Depressed.
Especially
but what I did have was a context of faith that pretty much toted the line of you pray yourself well, that if you're doing the right things, you'll be okay. This whole notion of, that this wouldn't be happening to you if
Yeah.
that there was something wrong with me and my faith. There was something broken with me, not, that there weren't really any what I would call spiritual or religious resources available to me at that age. Oh, did I drop out?
You just froze, but you're back.
Okay.
Continue.
So I had just said that somehow amazingly, despite not having those spiritual and religious resources to support me, my faith persisted, and this sense that somehow love really did heal, that somehow there really was hope. And so that, combined with some of my core beliefs and values about growth and continuing to learn and connection, led me to the growth that it took to kind of branch out, look into other beliefs, and find the resources out there, and find a spiritual home, if you will. So, which, long story short, has been a long story of kind of the never-ending growth, the never-ending seeking and finding, because finding the right religious context that supported my beliefs and supported me. Also, again, you got two things going on here at the same time. Didn't suddenly fix my mental health issues. Didn't suddenly fix the history of being from an abusive home. Didn't suddenly make the neural pathways that make me think of suicide so easily go away. And so, it's just a long, long journey. So that's my quick introduction-ish.
Yeah, I want to show the Chiron that I put up. My spiritual advisor, Rugger. I love that. I'm bloody pleased with that description.
Nice. I like that.
Lavender, in terms of the bipolar, and it sounds to me, and I think this is right, that you lean more towards depression.
Yeah.
I did early in my life, before I really knew, and then I kicked up mania. And for me now, mania is the one I have to worry the most about, because it kicks in a little more than the depression. But we know both, you and I have talked about this. We've talked about this with people in our lives who needed to understand bipolar, that it goes up and down, and there's like a medium in between. Can you talk about how you managed bipolar disorder, and how you used your faith to do so?
So I have a great number of medication intolerances, and so that's a huge piece of my journey, is that I have had more bad experiences that threw me for a tailspin psychologically than good experiences. In fact, I would tell you that only in the last year and a half have I finally gotten a good medication regimen.
Wow.
That I'm not constantly fighting the side effects of.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I want to say that, like, just the sheer physiological stuff has been a very hard journey to take care of. And that's in some ways the journey that made me, that was, I love the concept, this idea of being created in the image of God. And yet, when you're constantly struggling with this broken piece of neurochemistry, it's like, well, then if I'm in the image of God, how screwed up is that?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not in the image of God. Maybe I'm messed up. Maybe I'm so profoundly broken that image doesn't exist in me. And, that's one of those messages that distorted thinking that will take hold so fast and just ramp up that distorted thinking of I am so profoundly broken that I don't have that image in me. And so in so many ways, the fact that I could never get biochemically settled on medication just reinforced that negative belief of I am just too broken. That
I know what you were going to say, but you caught yourself with the F word.
yeah.
Girl. Okay. Sorry. That's a
Sorry.
joke. I
mean, I may have Reverend before my name, but things are real.
Roger before your name too.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a really heavy moment, and I'm not unaffected. I am affected by this comment. Continue, and then I have this leads into my next question.
So in I mentioned spiritual values earlier, and our core values, and one of the big kind of turning points for me.
Oh, you froze a little bit. Okay,
I'm back.
Okay.
One of the big kind of turning points for me was trying to align my core values with my coping mechanisms. So, and some of those come out in religious and spiritual ways, and some of them don't. And so let me just quickly kind of explain what I mean there. So as far as how faith and spirituality have helped me, my core beliefs are about love and community and growth and connection. And so to find the resources to keep me going, all the coping tools that really work for me somehow connect to those core beliefs. Those same core beliefs also are expressed in my religious and spiritual beliefs. Mm-hmm. And so when I talk about what's actually helped me, those become one rather large ball of overlapping, interconnected things. It's never just the idea of prayer or meditation. It's the idea of prayer or meditation as a mode of growth or connection, because those come back to my core values. Or when I think about advocacy work I've done within the religious context, to help educate about good mental health resources and good practice, that's about community and connection. And so it's my core values, it's my spiritual beliefs and my religious beliefs, it's my faith, all wrapped in one. I really can't disentangle them. But I find if I can very easily connect the threads between those things, then those are going to be the things that help me the best.
Mm-hmm. I think many people can't connect the threads. And just to go back to your comment about the image of God, I mean, I want to cry, and who cares if I cry? I don't mind, but
go for it. I'll cry with you.
All right. I have this in my book that for a long time I thought God was punishing me for my bipolar disorder, and I thought I'm never gonna make it, and He doesn't want me to make it, and He doesn't care. So I remember I told one friend that, and we're not friends anymore, but until I wrote my book, I had never really said it. So can you talk a little bit more about maybe someone like me? I don't feel this anymore, but I remember the feeling, I remember the pain, and I remember the hopelessness. And I know there's people out there that maybe watch this or will watch this that feel this way and maybe can't articulate it. But can you address that as a minister? If I came to you and said, God is punishing me, what can I do? What would you say?
So many directions to go.
Sorry.
No. I had we discussed this earlier, and I had a direction, and in the moment you think of the other things. I honestly, so this is going to be more about my beliefs than my advice, but anytime I see an image of God, or when religions promote this idea of God as punishing us with mental illness, it infuriates me. there's no biblical basis for thinking that we're punished with these things. There's, with what we understand physiologically, that belief is a reinforced belief of control and of trying to punish and hold people down. And if God isn't love and growth and creativity, if what the virtues are that come out of our experience of holiness and sacredness aren't creative and aren't expanding of our world, then they're just not good beliefs. They're just not supportive beliefs. And we have to try to figure out how to replace those beliefs with ones that are supportive and meaningful and turn us into better people, and replace that distorted.
Oh, we lost her.
Yeah, I'm back.
The distorted image, that distorted idea. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there, and maybe you'll agree that these distorted negative thoughts come from the chemistry. I mean, it's a chemical thing. Thoughts and feelings are chemical.
Yeah.
And it's like,
absolutely. But then it gets reinforced by ministers who say to you, you just need to pray harder, and that's some bull is what it is.
Yeah,
that's just bad theology. And there are some really good books out there that address mental illness and faith that really will address it on a theological level. And I could go into it. You would need me on for about 4 more shows.
I'm happy to do
when I tell you it's bad theology. Like, it's just not there, and it's just not in the big picture and the scope of faith and of the Holy One. That is not how God expresses God's self in punishing people, but it is how that distorted thinking takes hold. Or that is one of those messages of distorted thinking that takes hold, and it's just so hard to deconstruct. And I think that's why when we're in our better places, when we're in our stable places, and when we have the abundance of support around us, that all of our waking moments when we're in those good times need to be reinforcing that love, that creativity, that growth, that expansion, the beliefs and core values that will help us when things are not so good. One of the things I tell my patients, because I work in our child and adolescent psych unit, is know one or two people that you absolutely trust, that when they tell you something, you're going to believe them. Because go ahead and tell yourself this every day when things are good. Because when things are bad, you need to shut that down and trust that person to see your true image. You've got to have those voices around you, because sometimes you can't muster that voice from within you to help you see the difference between real and distorted.
And I can say that in my book as well, one of the things I talk about is having people around you similarly to support you. And that's also doctors, because you need a treatment plan, also therapists, because you need more than just medication, which is, what you're talking about, and building it, and the behavior that we want to change, which is, even in the good times, still work on what will help you in the bad times. You can't just forget it. A lot of people say, all right, I got through it, I'm going to keep going and just act normal again. But you need to build that resilience. And also, to your point, to bring people around you. You and I have amazing spouses, and we have friends. I've had you over the years that I could sort of remember G-chat in the middle of the night, and talking to you there, and other people that have stepped up and maintained contact with me whilst I've been overseas. But it's definitely important to have someone, like you said, who can, I don't want to say think for you, but when we're lost, it's hard to look at yourself and do anything, to be in that growth place of growing and moving forward. We can't move forward. We're stuck. And we do need people. We need people around us to say, no, this is who you really are. And I had a really great therapist named Mary Larson. I wonder if she's listening. Who said, we need to work on your authentic self, so you can pull yourself up. And I had her behind me, had my back, and said, no, your thinking is wrong. This is bipolar thinking. This is negative thinking created by the bipolar experience of the bipolar disorder. So I think we're definitely saying the same thing in different ways. And you have the approach to faith on that.
Well, for me, this is how I see God. I see God's love shining through other people around me. Those people who are my support and are my lifeline. You know, you reaching out to me to even do this show to me is a way of seeing God shining light through other people, an opportunity to keep us connected and growing and holding one another. And that to me is the most sacred, that is God. That is the sacred creation that we were made to be, connected and holding one another.
I'm losing it here.
I've got tears too. You're not alone.
Back in the 90s, this was not cool as a journalist to like have emotion. And now I'm like, let it rip. Let it rip. Sorry, Lavender.
No,
I'm not.
it's okay. I love you.
I love you too, honey. Thank you so much. You know, leading into, we've already been talking about this, but more specifically, and I like formula. I like how to. And in fact, my book is kind of a how to. Chapter 1, do this. Chapter 2, try this. Chapter 3, whatever. And I wondered if you could maybe give us a little bit of framework, and I know it's fluid, about how someone can build or use faith to manage their mental health and to, as you said, have hope and reduce suffering. Can you give us a little, like maybe step 1, 2, 3 on that, if you can break that down?
So actually, I'll walk you step 1, 2, 3 through an exercise I do with my patients in inpatient psych. So I do a spirituality group with the adolescents once a week. And occasionally I do one on spiritual values, which you could also say are core values. You know, the things like integrity, connection, that like I had named my core values earlier. And each of those core values are very spiritual in and of themselves, because those core values are the things that bring us meaning and light and life. And if that's not what spirituality is, then I don't know what it is. But if you know, go online, look up one of those core value batteries and take the test. You know, find the 5 words, 3, 4, 5 words that mean the most to you. And then look at your religious or spiritual beliefs and ask yourself, what are the pieces of that are going to connect most to who I am? You know, like because I'm an extrovert, because I love people and connection. Don't ever give me a coping tool that's going to isolate me, because that's just going to be the worst thing ever.
Me too.
But, you know, if you know, for example, that you love community, man, there are some amazing outreach kinds of missional things through all kinds of churches and, you know, all kinds of religions doing outreach work to help support folks and do advocacy. You know, get involved in some of that, because then that's going to connect to that core piece for you. Or if creativity is one of your core values, then within religion, there are practices that help cultivate that creativity. There are outlets for you teaching and sharing that with others. Then, you know, get involved in those. There's not a single, to me, religious belief or spiritual practice that is sort of this is going to help you. It's figuring out which of many different religious and spiritual practices are going to connect to who you were made to be, to God's image in you.
You know, I had in my book and in my life, you know, the Christian religion didn't fulfill me, and I was a yoga teacher, and I really put my energy into those kind of, I don't want to say spiritual practice, because I didn't become a Buddhist or a Hindu, but I really liked the mantra. And I used to do the mantra beads every day, 3 times in a row, twice a day, morning and night. And this was my absolute worst, when I was living in Connecticut and had this horrible job. And I did it religiously. Yeah. But, you know, like I didn't change faith, but I put my faith into a more palatable place where I could hang out in that space.
I mean, I can totally see how doing the mantra beads was was ideal for you. I mean, it's something that reinforces order. It's a ritual that helps bring familiarity. And when things are swirling in chaos around you, order and familiarity are soothing. So soothing. And
That's a
so
great point. Great
there's
tip,
just
everybody.
so many spiritual practices out there. I'm big into meditation. I got into meditation before meditation became cool.
I call it meditation and other people call it prayer, but it's
but the model of meditation that I got into is a sort of prayer if you think of it that way. But it's like I said, I got into it before meditation became so cool these days, but it has saved my life. Andrea knows that I'm a chronic insomniac, and so I literally supplant some of my missed sleep with meditation. And so it really does save my life. And yet it's also a spiritual practice because it's helping me hold a center of meaning so that I don't spin off into the distorted thinking or the self-centeredness or the isolation that mental health issues so often does to us.
Amazing. So, I mean, I wish I could keep you on for like another hour because there's so many things that people want to know, and maybe people don't go and talk to a reverend or go to a church or talk to a spiritual person, and we get to hear you talk today. And I hope that people are will find this useful in their journey with mental health. Lavender, can you kind of wrap up and like tie it all together? You talked about pulling these threads together, and maybe can you do that for the things that we've talked about today?
Yeah, at its very core, my deepest hope for people is that they are connected to beliefs that build them up, that make them into better people. And so, look into your beliefs, look into your life, look into yourself, and ask yourself, what is helping make you a better person each and every day? And that will somehow point you to the beliefs, the practices, the things that are most important to you. It doesn't have to be God that you have faith in. You can have faith in creativity as being a healing modality. You can have faith in all kinds of different things, but have faith in something that at least makes you better each and every day, or when you're struggling, will uphold you and keep you from falling into the pits.
Chris, and Chris very well, he says this, and one of the things that I love about him, and everyone loves about him, is that he's very personable. But he said, I'm trying not to cry again, he said that he wishes every day that people would be a little bit better every day. And I'm not sure he's ever told anybody that, but there we go. It's on live now. And he says, he says he's the great guru because he has all these same things, and he's never been called to be a spiritual leader in any way, but he always has the tools. He's got the right comments. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because, we love Chris.
That's awesome.
I
do love Chris.
Yeah. So continue. Did you have any final wrap up there before I interrupted you?
Oh, no, that was really
I think that's a really good ending, and that's a good wrap up. Go ahead.
Well, just that have those things, and like we were saying earlier, keep cultivating them when things are good, because it's when things get hard, it's too late. The reason I cope so much better right now than when I was 20, I'm 46 years old now. I cope infinitely better than when I was in my early 30s, my early 20s, my teens. And that's because in the good times, I have continued to work hard at coming up with these practices, of coming up with the things that make me a little better, a little more stable, a little more resilient. And so when the hard times come that medication won't fix,
it's not. It'll make you sleep. It makes you sleep, but that doesn't solve the underlying, behavioral issues, as we know. Lavender, just to wrap us up, do you have a prayer that you say or say to other people or have them say with you that kind of connects us here to this topic? Do you have a prayer? Can you share it?
Well, I don't have a specific prayer that I use. However, I have helped people write lots of mantra prayers. But one of the things, I said this earlier about my own experience, but one of the things that I constantly pray every day is that I'll continue to see God shine through the faces of other people. And that actually connects to the image of God and the whole thing. That's the thread that connects, is that I pray every day to continue to see God shining through the faces of people around me. And I believe that love will keep shining through. It's my ability to see it that I pray for, that I hope for, that I don't get cut off from being able to see and experience that.
That's just an amazing comment to end on. And I couldn't have a more shining person on the show today to talk about these things. And I just want to say thank you for being that, shining that light on Bipolar Phoenix talk show today. And to me as a person, and to everyone that you've touched, we all know, and you're so beloved in our community, rugby community. And I know your work community because I was on your birthday call and they were amazing. So thanks so much for your light today. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you, Lavender. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing words from my friend Lavender. I mean, I lost it. People who know me know I'm an emotional person. Yes, I'm bipolar, but I'm an emotional person by nature. And I just like my sister says, let it rip. And Lavender supports me in those times, as she does by letting me laugh during the really hard comments and letting me use that coping mechanism to justify myself. And I know she supports me, and I know she loves me, and I have no doubt. And to have those people in your life, like Lavender, like your spouse, like your friends, like your dog. We'll talk about service dogs another time. This is what we need to carry through. And of course, with the faith that Lavender shares, is to see God in everything. And I think that's amazing. Even if you don't subscribe to a particular religion, we can see the best in everyone and let it shine, and you'll shine too. And we'll all shine together. And I think that's the point. So thanks everyone for watching, and especially live people. Thank you. And if you're watching the replay, and for everyone, I hope that, thanks for watching the replay, but I hope that everyone could gain some good tools from this conversation and some value from the topic. And I know religion can be a hard one, but I hope that you find it useful. And I look forward to talking with all of you again. Thank you so much.